Hi there, welcome to the Schwoven's Nest. My name is Sandra, and today I'm bringing you another episode of Timber Tuesday, where everything I make is with wood. For my first project, I'm using two sizes of the tumbling tower blocks. The small ones on the right are from the Dollar Tree. These that I'm showing you right now are from Dollarama. I love being able to have different sizes, and I also find a whole bunch of them at thrift stores. So if you're ever looking for the original Jenga blocks, go to the thrift store and check out their game section. I'm using the larger wood blocks for this project. And what I'm doing here is using my Weldbond glue, which I will have linked down in my description box, and a paintbrush to apply it. I have a really hard time squeezing the glue out of the bottle because I have arthritis in my thumbs, and that just makes it really difficult. So I like to just make it easy for myself and paint the glue on. I'm going to go ahead and put two together, and then I'm going to assemble more and more until I get a square the size that I want. What I love about the Weldbond glue is that it only takes a few minutes for it to actually take. It's not going to dry 100% in about 10 minutes, but it does dry enough that you can continue working with your project and you don't have to add any hot glue. I like working in sections like this, but you could also just have a ruler set up and then just glue one on top of each other and just continue until you get the size you like. I did set this aside for a little bit to fully dry, and now I'm going to be adding a stain to it. I'm just using burnt umber acrylic paint, and you saw me squirt some water in there. I'm just going to use one of my little brushes. I'm going to mix that together and then put it on just like a stain. I like this better than actually working with stains. I know I used some gel stains for a while, but I'm just loving the burnt umber look. And I also have espresso, and both of those paint colors I picked up at the Dollar Tree. When I'm doing furniture projects, I definitely work with the proper stains. So I would use something from Varathane or whatever else your hardware store has. But dark walnut in a stain is my favorite. So this burnt umber just works perfectly. I still have a bunch of spindles and bedposts left over from when I took a couple of beds apart. So what I'm doing here is just counting to make sure I know where the center is. I'm going to place it down and just use my pencil to draw a circle around it so I know exactly where to put the glue. Using the Weldbond glue again. This glue is amazing. It's for wood, glass, ceramic, tile, plastic, you name it, it's going to work with anything. And this is what I use for my tiered trays. I use this for putting wood together and then if I need to pin it or screw it in, but this is my go-to glue of choice. What you're looking at now is a jar of paint. I needed something heavy to pop on top of the bedpost so I could continue to work with it, but then it would have time to set with the glue. So something heavy on top is always a good idea. I'm just using the same mixture to go ahead and stain the bottom. When you're gluing items together, a good tip for you is to always glue the raw pieces together. So wood to wood, ceramic to ceramic, and then paint afterwards. You're just going to get a much stronger hold. What I'm going to do now is use this stencil to add some embellishments to the top of the riser. I cut this stencil out using my Cricut and I will have it available on my website. It's using plastic poster board. If you don't have a Cricut and you can't do something like this, but you'd like to, you could definitely use a stencil burner. They're about $20 to $25. I'll have a link for my stencil burner down in the description box. This stencil, along with many others, is also available on my website. So the link will be down in my description box. Go ahead and click on that, and you'll be able to see all of the stencils that I offer. For projects like this, when I just want to add a little bit of embellishment, I always use the stencil not full. So you can see that I just let it kind of hang off the one corner. And the reason I do that is because it makes it look more high end and professional. You don't always have to use the stencil in its full capacity. For example, here I'm only using the top portion of it, and then I will also add a little bit into the other corner as well. I wanted to give this a little bit of distressing, so I'm just using the same makeup sponge and I'm only loading it a tiny little bit with some paint, and I'm just going to dab it around the edge just to give this a little bit more of a rustic look. Here's where I added the other little bit. For this project, I'm using the Dollar Tree tumbling tower blocks, and I'm just going to use hot glue because this isn't going to need to withstand anything. It's going to be a sign. So I'm going to just use the tumbling tower blocks as a frame on this piece of MDF board. This is one that I got at the hardware store and I cut it down to size, but you could definitely just use a sign from the Dollar Tree. The piece of wood that I have for the base just didn't quite fit 3 of the tumbling tower blocks, so I'm going to need to use this miter box to cut one down for each side. Now, if you're using the Dollar Tree signs, just go ahead and measure it to be the right distance. This one happened to be a scrap, and I was just too lazy to cut it down. Of course, I couldn't make it bigger either, but I'm just making it work. I'm using this miter box that has this cool feature at the end, which is a clamp, and I'm going to be able to just saw down the tumbling tower block to the size that I need. I'm using the same burnt umber stain, and I'm going to go all along the tumbling tower blocks, including the little piece of MDF that you can see at the bottom. I'm going to give the inside a couple of coats of white chalk paint, and this is just my DIY recipe, but you could also use just regular latex paint for this project or acrylic paint. I am an impatient crafter. I don't know if there's many of you out there, but let me know in the comments if you are too. So what I could have done is masked off the wood with some masking tape, but it was still wet and I didn't want to take the time to let it dry. So I'm taking an angled brush and I'm going to use it for what it's meant for. If you've ever wondered why there are so many different styles and types of brushes, this is why. Each brush has a specific job to do. I like using the angled brushes for getting into corners and making straight lines because you load the brush and then you can just push it and those angled bristles will give you what you're looking for. I don't know if an angled brush is specifically meant for this type of project, so if there are any artists out there, you can let me know, but this works for me every time. I've always wanted a pantry sign for my cupboard in the kitchen, so I cut out another stencil which will be available on my website, and the link again will be down in my description box. Now I'm just trimming off the end of a makeup sponge that I used for a previous project, just cutting off that extra hard paint that has dried on, but I also just want a smaller surface to sponge with. I started using the stain mixture without realizing or remembering that it was really watered down. So this first letter, the Y, bled a lot, and you can even see it from here that it went under the stencil. So I just grabbed my burnt umber acrylic paint and added a little blob of paint to where there wasn't any water, and that worked out better. Once I was finished stenciling with the brown, I still didn't like the look of it. So I ended up going over it with some black, and that turned out much better. I didn't want to put any holes in my cupboard door, so I ended up just taking 2 of the command strips and I put them on the back of the sign and then just peeled off the wall side and stuck it onto my cupboard door. I love how it looks. If you shop at the Dollar Tree, you have probably seen these signs. They've been around for a long time, but I've had this one in my stash for at least 2 years. I tried to get the paper off the top, it wasn't working, but then it didn't matter because I'm going to be taking another piece of paper and gluing it right on top. I'm going to use this barn paper that came from a paper pack from Michael's. I believe it was Modern Farmhouse. And I'm just going to use my fingers to score around the shape and then I'll cut it out. I'm just going to use a glue stick to apply the paper to the sign. I'm just going to give it a really good coat and make sure that everything is covered with glue. I'm just using a cotton pad and some 100% acetone to get rid of the lettering on the sign. When I'm shopping around at the dollar stores, I always look for things that are wood. This happens to be a little wood rooster puzzle. I know it would be for kids, but I thought this would be amazing on my little sign. So I'm going to take him apart. I'm going to give him one coat of black paint. And the reason I'm doing this is I just want to camouflage those colors. I'm going to be painting them white, but I know that the red and the orange will probably bleed through a little bit. So I just want to give it a black base coat to help stop that bleeding. I went back to my Cricut and I designed this little decal, the hen house. I think it's absolutely adorable. This will be available as a pre-printable and it will also be available as a decal on my website. Right as I finished painting these black, I realized that I should have glued them together first. It would have been better, but since this is a project that's not going to get any wear and tear, that's okay. Hopefully it'll all stick together and stay in one piece. So here's my rooster. I think he's absolutely adorable in the black, but I'm still going to paint him white, but I'm not going to do any of his tail white. I'm going to do a galvanized effect on that. Using a regular kitchen sponge, I'm going to sponge on some white. This is going to give me some good texture. Then once that dries, I'm going to go over it with some silver, and I've got a sweet little galvanized look for my rooster's tail. I set the rooster aside to dry and went back to the sign to work on it a little bit more. I wanted to just give the exterior edge of this a black frame, and I'm just using some paint, and I started out using this little chippy brush and made a mess right away, so I had to go get a smaller brush that would do the job better. I thought my rooster would look really cute with a black and white gingham bow around his neck, so I'm just going to do a simple shoestring bow, dovetail the ends, and then glue it underneath his neck. Lastly, I'm just going to glue him on with some hot glue onto the side so I can see the barn a little bit better, and this cute little project is done. I think it turned out absolutely adorable. I really hope you enjoyed these 3 wood farmhouse DIYs. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. That is the best way to support my channel. It helps it grow and get recognized on YouTube. If you're new to my channel, another great way to support me is to hit that subscribe button. The black arrow will point you in the right direction. Thank you so much to all of my current subscribers and viewers. I truly appreciate all of you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.